Dude, you guys, I almost killed the Black Widow. So since the summer of 2020 is kind of a bust, all the car shows are shut down and there's really nothing going on. Our car club kind of sponsored a Corona cruise. So I met up with a bunch of my friends at our hangout spot and we hit the road. We're cruising to another town called Tumalo. It's like Tumalo, but it's called Tumalo. Oregon steals all their town names from other states. And we're cruising along the highway and I started to smell this kind of burning, plasticky smell, and I thought maybe it was a car in front of me or maybe it was a house somewhere around me, and pretty soon I saw some smoke coming out from under my dash and I thought, oh crap. So I pulled over as quick as possible and turned the engine off and kind of started yanking wires out from under the dash. Hopefully nothing was on fire. And all my dash lights were like staying on and it wasn't good. I turned around, limped it back to the shop here, and that's when I found it. The main bundle of wires coming out from behind the fuse block was all melted. The wires had kind of fused themselves together. Pretty scary. And as you know, this truck is sitting on the chassis from a 75 Chevy pickup truck. And the younger, dumber me pulled all the wiring and everything out of that truck and just used that old wiring. It looked like it was halfway decent and it was an easy slap together fix just to get this thing on the road. Problem is, there were so many pieces that were cobbled together with splices. Wires weren't long enough, so I butted some wires together and I didn't organize anything. In the immortal words of one of my favorite bands, the Briggs, what was I thinking? Maybe I wasn't at all. I found a bunch of loose connections and loose grounds, and my light switch, it's supposed to have a little fuse here on the back, and whatever this arm is that comes around, you can see it's completely blown out, and I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be loose. Underneath the dash has these little like metal hooks that are hangers, and you put the stuff in there and you kind of pinch the metal up and it holds it in place. One of the wires had melted through. If there wasn't paint on the dash, I'm pretty sure it would have been welded to the dash. I mean, it was just a mess. It's a miracle this thing didn't burn itself down years ago. A long time ago, when I first got old Grampy here, it didn't come with any wiring in it, so I bought a complete brand new wiring kit from Speedway. It's a 20 circuit kit. Now, it's all practically brand new, even though it's old, and you can tell by the box it's been sitting in the trunk for a long time and had stuff thrown on top of it. But really all I wired up was the dash and the starter, the alternator and the distributor, and the front lights and everything. Since the plan for the Bel Air has changed, this wiring kit from Speedway that I put in the Bel Air is up for grabs. And so I had already thought about ripping this one out and putting it in the truck because it's got the mini fuses instead of the glass fuses. It's not, 45 years old at this point with a bajillion splices, and I have been kind of putting it off, but now this has kind of forced me to do wiring. So that's the new project. Sorry, Black Widow. Apologize for my stupidity. We're gonna fix you. We're gonna do it right this time. Hopefully I'll never have to do wiring again on this truck. This kit from Speedway is awesome. All the wires are clearly marked. The instructions are clear and easy to follow with pictures, so your 4-year-old can do this. It seems to be pretty high quality, and it's way cheaper than a lot of the other kits you can buy. So the first thing we'll do is mount the fuse block to the firewall. You want it high enough to be out of the way, but still accessible if you need to change a fuse. Now I'm going to route all the non-interior wires out through the firewall. We're going to start with circle branch number 2 on the instructions, which is the wires that are going to the engine compartment. And I'm actually going to put the rear body feed wires in through that grommet as well. All right, we're back in the shop. It's day 4, 5, or 6-ish, somewhere in there. I honestly lost count. I do know the beard's getting a little long, but I've made a ton of progress on this thing. I got pretty much the whole dash wired up. I got those door jamb button things wired for the dome light. I got the heater wired up, the wipers wired up. I got pretty much the ignition system wired up, brake switch, etc., etc. I got most of the wiring in the engine compartment done. Alternator's connected, starter's connected. I got it cleaned up and run up to the firewall. I didn't didn't put any looms or anything like that on it yet because I actually want to be able to turn the system on and test everything and check it all, and then I'll do the finishing touches once I know everything is working the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to reconnect the battery so I can test what I've done so far just to make sure everything's working before I move on. All right, well, let's turn the key on and let's see what happens. Fuel pump's going. Check the engine compartment underneath the dash for any smoke or anything. Yeah, everything looks good in the engine compartment. I don't hear anything or smell anything, so far so good. All right, we'll check the heater. Heater's working. Check the wipers. Hey, the wipers are working. All right, so now let's see if we can figure out how to wire up that fan relay like I did before. I went back and watched that old episode on YouTube just to refresh my memory on how to wire up the relay. And the system needs both an ignition on power source and a battery source. The wire that goes to the sniper unit itself is a ground wire. And then you obviously need a wire that goes from the relay to your fan. This kit from Speedway has this wire here that says to your electrical fan. I need to figure out if this is a battery power or if it's an ignition switch power. First, let's turn our ignition on and we'll hook up our test light to a good solid ground. And let's see what happens here. There you go. See, the light is on when the ignition's on. So now let's turn the ignition off and see if this light is on or if it's off. Okay, and there you go, no light. So this feed coming from this kit is your ignition on power. So I need to run a wire that's a battery on power. Fortunately, this kit has a little port that's an accessory port for things like power windows, power locks. Your fuel pump actually is one of these slots. It also has a cigarette lighter deal that I wired up already. And since I don't have power seats or windows or locks or anything like that, I can actually use one of those ports for the battery power. But first, before I do any of this, I'm going to disconnect the battery. I've learned that lesson way too many times. You're not gonna trick me again. So here's the accessory port here, and this green wire is actually the fuel pump wire that's going to the sniper system. Red wire is powering my cigarette lighter. So this top right-hand corner is port 102. This one down here is 103. And we're looking for port number 104, which is going to be this slot right here on the bottom, right next to our fuel pump. To get the wire to clip into this clip so I can plug it in and unplug it, the kit comes with these little deals here, and then this will go into the housing here, and this little tab right here is what locks it in place. So now this can only go in one way. You'll hear it click in place. There it is. And now that's in there. So now all I got to do is plug this back into the port, run the wire through the firewall, and we'll have battery power. So I finally got smart and I actually bought one of these little clips that plugs into your relay. So it's just got bare wires on the end. I got it all marked out so I know which port is which. Now it's just a matter of wiring up the wires to the correct wire here and putting it all together and making it work. All right, it's approximately day 7-ish. It's a new day, clean shave, the beard is gone. It's way too hot outside to have a face sweater on. Here's the list of everything I still need to do. The goal for today is to get as much of this done on this list as possible. Let's get to work. Time to test it out. Let's see what happens. I got the light switch and the gauge kind of temporarily wired up for now just to test it, make sure everything's gonna work. So far so good. Let's see if we can turn the lights on.
I see lights.
Lights are on. I see lights on my gauges.
I see lights on the bottom. I don't see your headlights. Park lights.
High beams.
No. Hey! You got low beams?
Left turn.
Yep.
Right turn.
No. No.
Well, it's on here. It stayed on, which means there's not.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah, there's either a blown out bulb or loose connection somewhere. What about the brake? Okay, here we go. Fire in the hole. All right, well, it looks like everything's working except for the right turn signal and the headlights. So, time to hook up the test light and see where the bad connection is. I don't think that fuel gauge works. Good times. All right, it's another day, hopefully the last day. We got all the problems figured out. So the fuel gauge was just a matter of changing out the fuse because that particular line had a blown fuse. The turn signal was an issue with that light bulb being burnt out. It's one of those light bulbs that has two prongs, and one is for the parking lights and one is for the blinker, and the blinker was burnt out. So changed the light bulb and my turn signal works. Headlights was a bonehead move on my part. In that wire pack coming from the front of the vehicle, there were two brown wires. One was for the headlights, the other was for like a brake light switch on the old 75 dash. And I hooked up the wrong brown wire. So I just hooked up the correct brown wire and boom, now my headlights work. So now it's just a matter of putting on the final touches. So we'll mount the gauge cluster and I'll put the light switch where it needs to go. All the bundles of wires can finally be zip tied all together now. We'll get rid of the old zip ties and tape and stuff that we don't need, so it'll all just be nice and neat. And we'll run some of this wire loom anywhere the wires are exposed, outside the vehicle, in the frame rail, and we'll run some of these little plastic tees as well. Alrighty, well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Everything seems to be working, and I think I'm gonna go for a test drive. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. If it did, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you on the next one.